Hi, Tom Abbott from Green Easy here. This is the Sustainable Construction Podcast. Today we have Flo Irvine. Do you want to tell us a little bit about what the company does and a bit of your background, Flo?
Yeah, sure. So, our company is called Friel. We're a marketing agency that is based in Suffolk, but we operate all around the UK. Friel Good is kind of like our slogan. So we kind of just say to companies and to brands, if you want your marketing to Friel Good again, that's basically why they should work with us. So yeah, I'm Florence. I've been with the company just underneath a year now. And we look to just help businesses improve their social media presence and branding presence. And we definitely work predominantly within the construction sector as well.
Perfect. That's great. I'm going to ask you a couple of questions now. So firstly, why should companies, particularly in the construction sector, look to have sustainability at the forefront of their marketing and business strategy?
Okay, so I think there are a few reasons why organisations and the construction industry in particular should be looking to become more sustainable. So the first reason is the built environment in the UK alone accounts for, I think, over 45% of total UK carbon emissions, and around 30% of all the landfill waste in the UK also comes from the construction sector and the demolition of buildings. Another reason is that we're also in the middle of a national housing shortage, but this combined with the target of achieving net zero carbon emissions by 2050, which is the government target, and it was brought on by the declaration of the climate emergency, it means that we can probably expect to see stricter restrictions when it comes to delivering on sustainability and being green brought into play in the coming years. So even though these regulations aren't there now, it's important to bear those in mind at some point, as they probably will be. So by carefully planning and taking into considerations all of the existing government sustainability recommendations, and even going beyond these, it could probably help developers and stakeholders to future-proof any of their building investments.
Okay, so moving on to question number 2. How could the construction sector be more sustainable?
So from a marketing perspective, I think that having a strong stance on sustainability and environmental issues should be a given, but it's more than just having them in your mission statement. They need to be at the heart and soul of your strategy, and they should just be as important as any of your other core values. So if you're not sure where to start, you could look to appoint a sustainability consultant or enroll a scheme that can help you to measure your carbon emissions and educate your staff on how to be more sustainable, both at work and at home. I've worked with a few clients who are very knowledgeable about sustainable methods of construction. So, using modern methods of construction, such as off-site manufacture, for example, is a great way to reduce waste, save on time and efficiency, and in the long term, reduce your carbon emissions by creating thermally efficient buildings. Okay. So developers could also, end up saving considerable amount of money if it was to be adopted on a wider scale, but integrated into any plans from the offset. So another big thing to address as well is the skills shortage. So having a strong sustainability plan to back up your CSR strategy could really help when it comes to recruiting workers to your business.
Great, that's cool. So my third question, moving on a little bit, how will having a strong stance on climate change help with recruiting the workforce of the future?
I know I just touched a little bit on the skills shortage. So attracting and, more importantly, retaining talent to your company is going to be vital, especially as we do face this upcoming skills shortage. So when it comes to recruiting the millennial workforce, companies will definitely need to adapt their recruitment strategy with sustainability in mind if they haven't done so already. So there was a recent survey that suggested that something like 64% of millennials would consider a company's social and environmental values when they're deciding where to work. People are waking up to the importance of climate change and, the plastic revolution as well. Since Blue Planet 2 came out, it's been almost a bit of a wake-up call for the world to see what the human impact is on our environment. And I think we can expect to see more of the younger generation having a much stronger stance when it comes to climate change and, you know, their values. You just need to look at the Greta Thunberg phenomenon, for an example, and, you know, the global school strike that she's been instrumental in advocating. Like, people may not always agree on her stance and what she has to say, but, you know, you've got to admit that she is an incredibly powerful figure when it comes to articulating the damage that's been done to our planet. When I attended the FBE annual luncheon, I think it was at the House of Lords in October last year, Lord Deben gave a talk, and he put it really well, because he predicted that in wake of the climate emergency, and in a few years' time, when the effects of climate change will be more visible, the leaders of the future will be holding business owners and CEOs accountable for past mistakes. So, you know, my advice would be to get ahead of the game and start considering your stance on sustainability now.
Okay, so for our audience who don't know what FBE is, could you just give us the definition of that, please?
The Forum of the Built Environment. So it's basically like a construction association, and they have different regions all around the UK that they kind of operate within. So our company director, Claire Friel, is actually on the chair of the regional FBE for East Anglia, which was why we ended up going to the House of Lords. So that was really interesting, especially to see someone kind of so regarded within his industry literally just hammering in the importance of being environmentally aware, and sustainability, especially within the construction sector. Like, people are going to have to be held accountable later on down the line. So that's just why it's important to plan ahead and make sure that, you know, you're not caught off guard.
You've recently been working with my company, Green Easy. So can you sort of give a sort of strategy of what is going to happen to Green Easy with your colleague Claire's magic, sort of, for what you do? What would you do to the company to make it sort of amazing?
So I think first, establishing your tone of voice and establishing your objectives, like what kind of messaging you want to put out to your audience. But I think because, you know, you are so invested within the sustainability aspect of everything, a key thing would be to position yourself as a thought leader. So you guys are experts in your field, aren't you? You're experts in your industry. So it would really be, you know, kind of playing to that strength and making sure that your audience know what you can offer. So what are your stances on sustainability? Like, how do you feel about the climate emergency? What do you think that companies should be doing? Like, all the questions you've asked me, I could essentially fire back at you, but then turn that into content and then put that out on your social media platforms or on your website, because ultimately, like I said before, it's going to position yourself as a thought leader and an expert in your field. So, like, a lot of people, I think, especially new businesses, they're almost afraid to speak out, and this is my personal opinion, but they're almost afraid to speak out on divisive topics because they're not sure how it's going to be received. But ultimately, you shouldn't be scared to speak about divisive topics, such as climate emergency, because ultimately, at the end of the day, it's not going to be a divisive topic. Like, further down the line, everyone's going to be jumping on the bandwagon. So as long as you're positioning yourself as experts in your field, again, you're already ahead of the game.
How do you feel your sort of line of work within the sustainable construction sector changing over the next sort of 5, 10, 15, 20 years?
Short term, I think we can expect to see a greater adoption of people working remotely and not having, you know, unnecessary meetings where they have to travel. And, you know, especially with the current situation, I think a lot of people have realised how easy it is to conduct business and conduct meetings from the comfort of their own home. But on a more longer term kind of outcome, I would expect to see a greater adoption of modern methods of construction, especially as the government has to adapt to the skills shortage. I would also expect to see just a greater effort and collaboration of not just the construction industry, but other big corporations really taking sustainability into the forefront of their marketing and business strategies. We've got quite ambitious government targets that we need to adhere to. And I think companies should really be leading by example on this. So I think we can expect to see more of that.
Great. Okay, so if you want to find out more about Friel and what they do, the website will be in the comments section. And if you want to, I'll also put Flo's email address in there, so if you want to email her. And so thank you for being interviewed today for the Sustainable Construction Podcast. Flo, today it's great to have you here.
Thank you very much for inviting me, Tom.